done 46 minutes of politics, and no one has mentioned the Tea Party. Is that still a factor? Professor, we'll start with you.
Much less of one, and moderate Republicans around the country are very careful not to have too many Tea Party candidates in the competitive U.S. Senate races. I think it's a big reason why the Republicans did so well earlier this week.
Agree?
Yeah, I don't think it's as prevalent as it once was. I think one of the things that the Republican Party is doing better is they're recruiting a little bit better candidates. You look at someone like Tom Cotton in Arkansas. This is someone who can really, not just get the Tea Party folks fired up, but is also someone who the Republican kind of establishment community in Washington, D.C. can look at and say, this is a guy who, by virtue of what he's done in his life, is someone who we believe can actually get things done.
Go ahead, Joe.
I think the Tea Party is a factor. Especially some of the beliefs. Some of the beliefs actually may have become more mainstream within the Republican Party, because the Tea Party, many Tea Party people believe there's too much. They're kind of aligned with the Democrats in the sense that they think they're kind of wary of corporate welfare. At the same time, they're wary of any sort of big government. They want taxes low. So you saw in Jefferson County, for example, where a lot of Republicans won. Many of those, I would arguably say, would technically be considered Tea Party. It's just they don't use the name, but the beliefs are still there.
In Illinois, with Rauner, not Tea Party, he's not anything. The man took no stands on social issues, ran entirely on finance, hasn't really revealed himself. He's been a big contributor to the ACLU. If the Tea Party had any hold in this election, it doesn't show, not with Rauner.
You mentioned Jefferson County. What can we learn from there? Mr. Rorida was defeated in Jefferson County. Is that part of the region changing?
Yes, I think it is. I think we've seen a shift in population that is going south and going west, and so I think you're seeing the more conservative areas on the outside. When you talk about the suburban rings, that's where it goes, and the population has been shifting. You could see through the redistricting and the new census that the population has moved west, and so St. Louis County is getting more blue, but you go out to St. Charles, you go down to Jeffco, you go to those outer rings, and they are traditionally more conservative. So
It was the last bastion of the conservative Democrat in Missouri. This is now a complete correlation, perfect correlation almost, between ideology being conservative and being a Republican. No more conservative Democrats.
Just the name Ike Skelton comes to mind a little bit there. A Democrat that maybe got a lot of folks who would now vote for Republican.
And his seat is now occupied by a conservative Republican.
Exactly. And also the idea, back to Mr. Rorida, Jeff Rorida, this is the man who was running, and you saw the ads on TV linking him to President Obama, if I'm not mistaken. But then also he was connected in the Michael Brown story to Officer Darren Wilson, in that he works for the St. Louis Police Officers Union. Those things kind of go in different directions. How did that all play out?
Well, I think Rorida was pretty confident that his chances of winning, in part because of being tied as a former police officer and as the business manager for the St. Louis Police Officer Association, that would actually help him. And it may have, but it didn't help him enough. But his voting record, is very close to many Republicans in the legislature. So it's kind of like what Professor Jones said. His voting record with Paul Wieland, the Republican who won, on many issues wasn't that different. And Wieland, unlike some Republicans, Wieland made a point of emphasizing that he's not for right to work. He's not for some of the anti-labor issues that some Republicans are espousing. So you had a blend of actually two candidates, very similar voting records. So then it became a contest that were dealing with fringe issues, where Rorida was trying to paint Wieland as maybe not being supportive of police, law enforcement, and then you had Wieland's ads saying, well, he's with President Obama. So I think it was...
it may have just come down to DER. I mean, because I think they were so similar on a lot of issues that, he could have maybe said just about anything, and there was going to be a certain amount of margin. It was just that there was a D or an R by his name. That's my opinion.
Would you agree that St. Louis County is bluer, turning bluer?
I don't know about that. I think there's a very interesting opportunity for a coalition to develop with this Fannie Lou Hamer coalition of Democrats supporting Rick Stream the way they did. I think Republicans have a great opportunity to take advantage of that enthusiasm.
Are Democrats concerned about that?
I don't think so. I think this was a unique situation based upon what happened in Ferguson, and I don't think that you're going to see that. I think that the values of those people still support the Democrats and the policies that the Democrats put forward.
Can we talk about the national politics? What's who's going to run for? Oh, go ahead, Joe.
I think one thing I do want to point out is that I think if you look at the Democrats nationally and more significantly, who were running away from the president, right or wrong, they lost. It was kind of like the Republicans 6 years ago. Any of those who ran away from George Bush, most of those lost. And from a local level, in some ways, Stenger actually might have been helped because he refused to run away from McCullough. So because the people who didn't like him because of McCullough weren't going to vote for him anyway, but he did then have this manner of, hey, I'm not going to throw Bob McCullough under the bus, and it may have helped him with something.
Who's extremely popular. Talk about bipartisan. He's extremely popular among
Bob
both.
McCullough.
Yeah,
Yes.
he didn't have a Republican opponent.
And really does. And I think, at least from all the polling I saw, the one steady thing was that, believe it or not, his polling numbers, he may have become more polarized, but his numbers did not go down. There were people whose support got stronger for and people whose support got stronger against, but his numbers never changed, which I thought was very fascinating. So St. Louis County is very capable of being sort of nonpartisan in a lot of ways. But I think the demographics are moving blue. That doesn't mean that Republicans don't have opportunities and they should try to seize them, but it's a blue county. And I think, with everything, going through a primary usually prevents you from winning a general. So not only did you have that, but then you had the extraordinary circumstances of Ferguson. I mean, the idea that, that Stenger got through all of that, a lot of the tough circumstances he had nothing to do with him being a D or, or not being an R. So I still think it's very blue. And so.
You're on the end of the island down there.
And I want to go back to what you said about the Tea Party and take us to national politics. I think that the Republicans could be a victim of their own success, because when a party is going to dominate institutions like the entire Congress in significant numbers, we're going to start seeing fissures. And the Republicans have done a very good job in the minority and holding themselves together and keeping the line. But this happened to the Democrats under Clinton, and I would say, especially if we have a Republican president in 2016, all of a sudden the Republicans are going to start seeing these fissures, and that Tea Party element may come back with a vengeance, trying to exert its power, saying, hey, we finally made it. Now we're going to exert our power. So it's something that's happened to Democrats, and I think it could happen to Republicans.
Do you think that it's going to happen in the state legislature, where they now have 118 seats in the House? Do you see them becoming a victim of their own success?
I think it could, because all politics are local, and I think it starts out. I think it would start out in the state, if not at the local level, but in the state, and then in Congress as well.
Any indication? Okay, so some popular shows. You got the John Olivers and the Jon Stewarts talking about how important state races are. That's what really has an impact on our lives. That what you folks do is what we're really going to feel. Is the general population that the general kind of casually voting population? They're engaged, but maybe not enough to know that you're your representative or you're their state senator. Is that changing in all that attitude?
I don't think so, because the St. Louis County Election Board was predicting the turnout was going to be close to 50%, about 46%. It wasn't. It wasn't. Didn't even hit 40.
What do we know exactly what it was?
It was in the
44.
mid.
County was
yeah.
about 44.
Right,
44 and
right.
55.8 in 2010, but we had a United States Senate on the ballot, so turnout was bigger. But the night of, you would have thought that it was great turnout because of all the lines, and we've now come to determine that it was paper ballots and sort of incompetence that made it look like it was bigger turnout than it was. So no, I agree with you. I'm not sure that has changed, and while we did see a big sweep Republican, I'm not sure that, I know you may disagree, but I don't know that that's necessarily rah, rah, rah pro-Republican. They're frustrated with what's going on, so that too can be cyclical. So now they're going to own it. I mean, the Republicans are going to own the state, and we're going to see what they're going to do completely unchecked. And I think that will start to cause some issues. It's cyclical.
I think it was pretty clear that what you saw on Tuesday night, was a referendum on Barack Obama. He's right now one of the least popular presidents that America has ever seen. Everyone in America seems to realize that it was a referendum on Barack Obama, except Barack Obama. I mean, that press conference that he had the day after Election Day was just pretty extraordinary. So I think it's pretty hard to put lipstick on this pig if you're a Democrat. You know, you talk about you know, the swings, the pendulum swings that you see.